Hi, folks, and welcome back to the Star Wars Library, where Star Wars is in print. And today we're going to be looking at two more Marvel issues today, and I'm actually very, very excited to talk about these with you today. And they are the first two issues in our brand new trade, the Fool's Bounty trade. This is Volume 5 of the Marvel series from Dark Horse a long time ago. And so the first issues is issue 68, which is that one here. And the next issue that we'll be talking about is issue 69, which this one here. So this is the Expanding Universe's first time on Mandalore, which is very exciting. Mandalorians are a very, very popular race in the Star Wars universe. So basically, as we found last issue, we remember Leia and Lando and Luke are going to be going and looking at potentially three suspects of who took Han Solo. Dengar, Bosk, and IG-88. So this one is kind of on Leia and her task to find Dengar. That's who she's looking for. So basically, this story is kind of starting to give a little bit more background and information about Boba Fett. And though we find a little bit later that not all of this is true. In fact, the expanding universe will come in and do a few retcons and fix it. Just because, again, this is very early expanding universe. And again, remember, there wasn't as much of a desire to, or a conscious thought to connect this stuff as it is now, or as it was before it was decanonized. So it's kind of, again, like I said, it's setting up which of the three bounty hunters that we mentioned are in league with Boba Fett. So Leia, this is who we're going to be following. And so she's with C-3PO. They go to the planet Mandalore. Um, um, Kidal, uh, Kidal is met, and they encounter these slavers, and these slavers are guided by stormtroopers. So, oh, the Empire's around, right? So, and so they think that they've bumped into Boba Fett because of this Mandalorian warrior who is here, and he looks similar to Boba Fett. In fact, if I remember right, there was actually a T-shirt um, uh, that was made with this character, and if you can see here, he's talking to Leia, and uh, and so basically he is later to reveal known as Fen. Fen Shiza, I think is how you say his name. It's Shysa. So Fen takes Leia to his village, and he reveals a little bit of background on the Mandalorians. Now, there's some contradictions here. Um, Basically, what he's saying, and one of the things that he says in his thing, and it's in this really cool splash panel here of the Mandalorians. And basically, he says here that he was acquainted with your presence when you were a teenager, because he was saying that, oh, they're very, very well known. Well, Leia was not a teen during the Clone Wars, right? She was not even born yet. She wasn't born until the end of the Clone Wars. So again, you have this contradiction here. Um, and one of the other contradictions that they said was that Palpatine created the Empire before the Clone Wars. Again, just like Leia being born after the wars, the Empire was created pretty much at the end. Those are major contradictions, especially to the prequel movies. Well, Abel G. Pena came up, and he fixed this with a piece in Star Wars Insider number 80, and this is it in here. So in this Insider, there is a amazing, and if you can find it, and if you're a fan of the Mandalorians and you can find it, I think it's worth picking up. It's really, really cool. It's the history of Mandalore, and so it's this beautiful, and it's multiple pages here. beautiful pages of the history of Mandalore. And so it's kind of coming in and fixing a lot of these, and these small contradictions, and doing some retcons here, um, and talking about um, Ben Shiza and Toby Dalla, who we'll meet a little bit later. And so basically, it says that a clone of Jango Fett that was ultimately this Mandalorian um, who thought, who initially said, "Oh, it was Leia." Turns out that Mandalorian was actually talking about Padme. So I can read it to you in a second. But history is a harsh arbiter. Though Dala and Shiza were privy to a great duplicity on the part of Darth Sidious, when they returned home from the Clone Wars, their own people branded them outlaws and evildoers, a people who'd now legalized slavery to escape Mandalore's legacy of poverty. Cooler minds prevailed, however, and Dala and Shiza were covertly enlisted to train elite special police units around the planet. Um, and then, so that was again kind of explaining the whole Darth Sidious thing and the whole clone thing. So before that, they actually talk about the whole Padme thing, or with the whole thing there, and they go in and they talk about how, I guess, that clone, or that individual, they, like I said, they thought it was Leia. Turns out it was Padme that they were thinking of, but because Leia is Padme's daughter, they have the family resemblance there. So you're again, Fenn is being put into the larger continuity here, which is kind of cool. Um, and he gets put in it much later on as well. So basically, they're looking for Dengar. Turns out that Dengar has been captured, and Leia tries to break him out because they're trying to get information on Boba Fett. But they get into a pickle because they are captured. But then Fenn, of course, teams up with them, and you'll see what happens with them and Toby. I don't really want to spoil this because, again, I think these two issues are really, really good, and I definitely want you to read them. So, but of course, this insider will spoil that story, FYI. So if you don't care about the story, make sure you check that out, or make sure you read the story if you don't want to be spoiled before you read the magazine. But again, the magazine's not essential; it's just a cool piece. So if you're interested in Mandalorians, Star Wars Insider number 80 might be worth your time. So, um, here is a spoiler here. So I'm going to say this right now. If you don't want to be spoiled, you can leave right now knowing that this is a great story. I think you should read it. Check it out. Anyways, we'll see you later. For those that are sticking around for spoilers, here we go. So, Dengar is ultimately spilled that he is not the ally. Um, and so, oh, I mean, I guess who would have saw that coming, right? No. So we still have Bosk or IG-88, which we will talk about in later stories. So Fenn is actually a good ally to the rebels. It's kind of cool. They have a Mandalorian that they have. And so I think that's pretty cool. But anyways, like I said earlier, for the people who left before spoilers, this is a great story. I think that this is one of the best ones from Marvel. Again, it is cool because it is one of the first Mandalorian stories, which, again, Mandalorians are very, very popular. Um, and this is where they got their start. So if you're a Mandalorian fan, I definitely think you should read it. I do think it is an essential read. I do think it is a cool way to see um, the start of that. Now remember, there are contradictions. They were retconned and they were fixed, but understand that I think a hardcore Mandalorian fan who maybe is coming at this after reading the Karen Travis novels might be a little bit put off by this. But remember, this is their first introduction that we've ever seen in the publishing timeline. This is the first time we've seen them, and they were still, I guess, kind of getting their feet wet with the whole culture thing. But again, it does all line up. It does all connect ultimately. And again, I think this magazine, Insider number 80, is a good way to do that. But so yes, definitely check out Fool's Bounty. Anyways, folks, that is all the time I have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time with another episode of the Star Wars Library.